So many people are totally willing to be overcloaked on a day-to-day basis by spirits for a lot of different emotional reasons. And the more mediumistic you become, and by the way, that is a given, as you progress on the divine love path, you are going to become more mediumistic, whether you like it or not, right? And so as you progress, you are going to release a lot of the fears that you have about spirit connection, about seeing spirits, hearing from spirits, about being influenced by them. And as you release a lot of those emotions, you'll now see them more clearly, you'll see what's going on, you'll see, in fact, you'll get to the point where you even see the spirit body, you'll see the emotional hook that spirit has with the person, you'll see even when the spirit is talking in the person's ear, trying to get them to actually feel something that the person doesn't actually feel, you'll see all of that occurring. Now, to give you an example of that, when I was in Greece last, which was a couple of years ago now, we had a group of people come over, as we do when we're travelling around generally, and there were about 35 or 40 people there present at one of these discussions. And there was a lady right down the end, totally sitting the opposite to myself, right down as far away she could get from me as possible, right? And of course that was motivated by 3 of the spirits who were with her, who wanted her to be as far away from me as possible. And so she was right down the end of this long sort of, it was beautiful setting. We were overlooking a bay from a person's balcony, and it was a huge balcony and able to seat quite a few people, and just this wonderful setting. And she was right down the end. We was talking, it was outside, and we were talking about all these different spiritual matters. There were 4 or 5 people, there's quite a few people in Greece actually who are quite spiritually connected, like it seems to be something that's quite common over there. And there were 4 or 5 people who were also in the audience who could see very clearly spirits. In fact, one of the ladies could see spirits so clearly that she actually thought she saw them the same as she sees you. That's how clearly she sees them. So she's given up driving because she's afraid of running over the spirits, and things like that. So she's going along and she slams on the brakes and nobody's there, but she sees the person standing in front of her walking with a pram across the road, things like that. So she sees spirits very clearly. And there were a group of others there, about 4 others there, who could also see spirits quite clearly. And we had this conversation, and this conversation ensued between me and this woman at the other end. And then these 4 or 5 people came up to me afterwards and said, man, those spirits with that lady, they were really into her, weren't they? Now, this lady had no idea that what she was saying was being spirit-driven or influenced at all. She believed with all of her heart that what she was saying was coming from herself. And yet the lady who was seeing spirits like she can see you described the condition of each of the spirits, and we just discussed it privately, the condition of each of the spirits who were surrounding this lady. Now, the lady was heavily on the natural love path, and these spirits were very antagonistic towards hearing any other truth other than the natural love truths. And so what they were saying to me, they were constantly engaging me in questions and in statements that were trying to oppose what I was teaching constantly. And this lady had no idea whatsoever that she was actually just being used as a mouthpiece of 3 spirits wanting to disagree with me. Now, in the end, I did point that out to her, that there were 3 spirits with her who were influencing most of our discussion. And she would not accept it at all, even though 5 other people in the audience saw those spirits talking in her ear. So what we obviously have also, that illustrates that we obviously also have very deep reasons why we want to deny the existence of spirit connection and communication and deny the influence. You see, if I have to admit that I'm being influenced by somebody, then I have to admit quite a lot of things about that influence, don't I? Firstly, that I've attracted it. Secondly, what emotions in me have caused this attraction to occur. Thirdly, how much of my life is actually dominated by these spirits and not actually my own life. Fourth, how each interaction is actually manipulated by someone else other than myself. How does that feel? There's a lot of feelings involved in me having to recognise that there's quite a lot of influence. And so the majority of people who are overcloaked by spirits do not ever through their entire life on earth admit to themselves or to anyone else what has actually happened. You know the first time that they admit to themselves something must have happened? Is as soon as they die. What happens when they die is most of them expect themselves to be arriving in the spirit world in what they classify as an enlightened state. When they arrive in the first sphere, and almost all of these people, by the way, who are overcloaked in this manner do arrive in the first sphere, there is obviously a huge discrepancy between what they expected the spirit world to be in their enlightened state and what it actually is in reality. Now imagine the shock of that. You've lived with something all of your life, believing something all of your life, believing that you were safe when you passed, everything was going to be fine, you're an enlightened being, everything's going to be fine, and then you pass, and lo and behold, it's totally the opposite of what you expected. Now, many times the spirit who overcloaked the person, obviously, a lot of the times was in a better condition than the person. And so therefore made the person feel this feeling of overwhelming love for everyone and overwhelming compassion for nature and for animals and birds and all these other things, and can talk to nature, talk to the animals, talk to birds and all those kind of things, and also be able to express themselves very fluidly when they're on earth. And you imagine all of a sudden at the point of passing that all of those abilities pass from you. You imagine the shock of that. Like, it's a terribly shocking place to arrive.